on this call as well. It's been a while that we've met, and I remember the first time we met, it was for a survey that I was doing. I was writing an article, and I wanted to have some feedback from your subscribers, and you helped me out with that. So thank you so much for that. I've also seen you and followed you on LinkedIn for quite a while, and you're very active on LinkedIn, given the industry that you're in, which is generally a bit more quiet than any other industry. And I've seen how you've grown along the way. And what really interests me is how you've moved from selling parts to selling trucks and then now selling digital issues and digital asset. So let me begin by asking you the question: what are some of the foundational beliefs of a salesperson?
I think sales is something that's often complicated, to be honest. Like a lot of people, if they have strategies and things that they are overcomplicated with. I think in a business to business sense, which I have done most of my career, I believe relationship is the key foundational foundation stone of any sales role, and whether you're dealing with the kind of customer who is a long term prospect or someone you're going to be dealing with a lot, or whether it's a 5 minute transactional deal. I think you need to build some form of relationship for that to prosper. So that would be the first key thing for me. Second would be honesty. I mean, it sounds obvious, but for me, like in the industry I've been in, mistakes happen. It's part and parcel. We're all human, right? Um, and I learned quite early on in the parts game, particularly, to own your mistakes. I think people have a lot more respect for you when you say, "Yes, I did that. It was my fault. I'm sorry. Let me remedy it," and you come to them with a solution to move forward. So I'd say that's probably the second thing for me, and thirdly, I'd say just deliver on your promises. Um, Under promise, over deliver, and they're three really basic skills, and I don't think they're unique to sales either. They probably work in any sector of a business, but I think you get those three right, and you're probably doing better than 90% of the people out there. Just doing the basics and
Yeah.
doing them well.
Yeah. So the first thing that you said is the relationship building, and I've heard that from many, many people. I think even marketers speak about the same thing, that you have to build a long-term relationship with your customers. Second, you said about honesty or integrity in a way, and the third is the delivery. Um, you said that it's really obvious and usual to understand that honesty is a key thing, but my opinion of sales for a very long time has been that sales is a bit too salesy, if you know what I mean. Where
Absolutely,
yes,
yeah.
there is honesty, absolutely, but you also do a bit of overselling. Because again, coming from a consulting background, I've had many of my salespeople oversell my product, and I have to come in and manage that expectation. But I think you have a very unique role where I believe you have the role of a marketer, a salesperson, as well as the person who delivers. If you could maybe speak about what is so unique about New Zealand, because a lot of people don't fully understand the challenges of being a smaller economy of sorts, because you have to wear too many hats, including salespeople have to wear the hat of marketers and the other way around. If you could maybe speak a little bit about how your day looks like, and what do you do?
So yeah, for New Zealand Trucking at the moment, I'm business development manager, which for the most part involves the selling of advertising and marketing to prospective clients. Obviously, some of those are new to the business,
Hmm.
so part of my job is to go out and hunt for more business, and some of it's key account management for businesses that we already deal with. That's the bulk of my day. I try to get out of the office sort of 3 days a weekish,
Hmm.
and have a couple of days for admin and phone stuff. So yeah, a lot of time out on the road, which I like. It's for me. I find it a lot easier to build those relationships in person. I find, yeah, you have a cup of tea, cup of coffee with
Hmm.
someone, and you have a much better conversation. You have a good chat, whereas sort of over the phone or emails, you just don't get that human touch. Yeah, no, I enjoy being on the road. I think, particularly as I'm working from home now, it gives me a chance to shake off the cabin fever and you know go and get some
Yeah.
human interaction again. Yeah, that's my typical day there. Yeah, in terms of the New Zealand market and sales, I'd say New Zealanders in general, like you were saying, don't really like salesy people. They don't like to be sold to. I think it's quite potentially quite different from overseas, and particularly with the industry that I'm in, the sector being transport. New Zealand's a small country, and its transport is just a slice of that. So it's a relatively small market. And when I go back to the integrity and honesty, you piss someone off in this market, and not only does everyone know about it, but you're never going to sell them anything again. You know, so whereas perhaps overseas where there's bigger markets, that they can go out and find more customers. Well, hey, this is a small country. Um, yeah, it's a small market, so you've really got to look after your customers.
Yeah, and I must also say that on the flip side, though, if you do take care of your customers and if you build those relationships, it's much easier to sell because, like you said, if the number of businesses to sell to are relatively limited and smaller in number, the brand and the reputation is such, to be honest, easier task to do in New Zealand as opposed to the other places. And I must say that in terms of the New Zealand trucking media, the magazine itself, initially when I approached you, I wasn't very sure if that's the right way to do it, to source some information. Because my opinion was that the magazines, especially the physical ones, are done and dusted. There's no one buying it. Anything online is probably not going to be very helpful for people. However, working in the trucking industry myself and prospecting and every other business out there, whether it's a forklift business or a crane business or haulage business, I go out, I see your magazines lined up right in the reception area.
That's
I've
right. Yeah.
also seen people um, taking the center pages with big Scania trucks and all that sort of stuff, and putting it behind their desks. So I'm really moved, and I'm very um, impressed with the passion that people in trucking bring to the table, that the passion and the work ethic that they get to the table, and also the sort of you know what I say. They're almost like fans of these trucks. You know what I've seen? I've seen someone with a tattoo of Mac
Yeah, yeah.
on their shoulder,
That's not uncommon.
and yeah, it's not uncommon. And I thought to myself, when was the last time I saw some developer wearing AWS or Microsoft
Sure. Yeah,
tattoo
yeah.
on their shoulder? Never, right?
Yeah.
So, what is it with trucking that makes it so special? What do you see in your customers? What makes them so unique in
It's
that way?
interesting. I think it is a real community. It's not just a sector or a job for a lot of people. A lot of people. It's really. I think the main reason I'm still associated with transport is the people. To be quite honest with you, they are good people. Yeah, salt of the earth. Um, and yeah, I think that's what it is. People find a sense of community, and yeah, you go to a truck show, and you see that, as you say, people with tattoos and stuff. It's yeah, people love this industry,
Yeah,
and you're right. There is a lot of passion out there for it, which is cool. And I really appreciated that when I was selling trucks. And I went from selling truck parts, which is very much a begrudging purchase for most truck owners. If something's broken, it's costing them money. Their truck's off the road. It's something they need rather than something they want. And I went to selling trucks, which was there's a lot more emotion involved. People were always excited to buy a new truck, to get it painted in their colours, and it was handover day was always a really cool day when I was selling trucks. So it was quite an interesting transition, that one, from going to a product that people begrudgingly bought to something they were actually really excited about. It was quite cool.
yeah, and And it really amazes me as to how you've moved across these different businesses, so to speak, right? You've began selling physical goods, right? Smaller parts, and then you began selling trucks, and now you're selling digital issues, advertising, and sponsorship space. If you could maybe speak about what sort of a mindset the salespeople need to do that, and what are the differences and similarities when you move across that physical space all the way to the digital space?
Well, I've been quite lucky. I don't know if lucky is the word, but been quite fortunate in the roles that I've changed into in the last three roles. Um, I've been able to leverage a lot of my contacts and knowledge into the next role. So when I went from truck parts to truck sales, a lot of my customers were the same people. I had knowledge of the products and so forth. And then again, when I went to media, a lot of the people that I sold truck to and bought things off and dealt with as a truck salesman, a lot of those are now my customers. Yeah, I was fortunate to be able to leverage that in terms of the difference in selling it. Sales is sales. I agree with you um, on that front, and that it is more of the same. You just really sell the benefits of what you're selling. You don't when you're selling a truck, you don't say this truck's got 500 horsepower and 1700 foot pound of torque. You say you're going to get to your destination 5 minutes earlier. More horsepower,
Yeah.
get there faster. Haul more stuff. And so it's just selling the benefits. Really, is the one thing that carries on through all the roles.
Mhm.
It has been quite interesting going to from parts where I was probably getting between 50 and 100 phone calls a day. It was very reactive, fast paced, bang, bang, bang. Sort one customer out, move on to the next. Truck sales could be a very long process. You could work with someone for 18 months, 2 years before you finally get them into that truck.
Mhm.
And then and the volume of calls and truck sales obviously drop. You don't get as many calls for truck sales as you do for truck parts. And then going into media, yeah, you really have to hunt those sales. It's from that kind of you're not getting 100 phone calls a day, people wanting to
Mhm.
advertise, so you have to really go out and look for it, look after those people that are advertising with you. So yeah.
Mhm. So when it comes to advertising, and I think the reason why I think the digital part of the story is so important is because most of my life has been with the digital side of things, right? Especially the technology startups, and more specifically, data related startups these days struggle with selling. I can tell that from my own experience because we're not born salesmen. Nobody is, and a data science person or a data consultant, for example, never has to really do a hard sell as a salesperson would ever do. What do you think are some of the things that we should consider if we were to do our own, let's say if I bring up the topic of consulting media, right? And if I were to hire you as a salesperson for that, how would you go about building it from the ground up?
So from the ground up, from day one, you'd probably look at building your ideal customer profile. What does your perfect customer look like? What size of a business are you targeting? Are you targeting um, mum and dad businesses? Are you targeting multinational companies?
Mhm.
So build your ideal customer profile around who it is you want to be dealing with, and within your boundaries.
Mhm.
Um, And secondly, I'd probably look at take that ideal customer profile and start building a database of ideally a prioritized list of all the people that you want to target,
Mhm.
and put the low hanging fruit at the top. Put your real ideal customers at the top and start working through them. Get out there on the ground, have some coffees, kick down some doors, have some meetings, um, and start to build those relationships. You can't do it early enough. Um, so yeah, obviously, depending on your background, if you can leverage some contacts and some previous knowledge from another job, go and hit those people up. Go and ask them for referrals, um, and then once you've sort of got your list and you're working through your database, to start building up a call cycle. So those your Moby Dicks, the people that you really want on board, you go and see them once a month. get in front of them regularly. They know your
Mhm.
face, they know your business, they know what you're offering. Yeah, just that repetition, I think, is key to building that relationship and eventually getting the customers on board.
Yeah, and I also think, I mean, for me, it has been such a huge challenge. The last year, especially Q2 and Q3, the challenge began, and then the market went quiet from Q4 onwards. And one of the things that I've done myself was to go get a sales mentor because I don't know how to do sales, so go speak with someone. And it has changed so much for me, my business, as well as my mindset and outlook. Because what I used to think earlier, that a sales call is a disturbance, a sort of annoying, useless part of someone's life, right? That's how I thought about it. But then when I went through that sales mentoring session and also spoke to people such as yourself, what I figured out is that there's always a human on the other side of the equation. If they're saying no, if they're saying I'm not interested or I don't need it, it's really them going through something on their side. Like their budgets might be stricter. They might have had a loss, recently, and so they may not be very open to it. But going back and building that familiarity and relationship does help. So can you maybe bring up any such example from your early days or even recently where a deal went through and came out successful, but right at the get-go, right at the beginning, you didn't really feel that it will become closed or
Yeah,
won?
absolutely. I think in one of my previous roles, there are numerous occasions where I approached some customers when I was relatively new to the role, and they said, "Oh no, we're not going to deal with you. We've had a bad experience with your company before."
Oh,
And straight away you think, right, I'm up against it here. That this one's not going to happen. But to be honest, a number of those I got over the line, and it's just building that trust. As I say, perseverance. Go and see them, convince them that you know what you're talking about. You're not a complete idiot, and you will look after them better than they were looked after last time.
mhm.
And to be honest, those were some of the most rewarding ones for me. It's one thing for someone to ring up and say, right, I want a truck, I want it tomorrow, and I'll pay your asking price. That's fine, that's great, money in the bank. But yeah, the ones where they didn't want to buy from you, or they had reservations, and you managed to get them across the line. Though those are the most rewarding ones for me. And to be fair, I think probably built some of the longer lasting relationships also. I think those relationships were perhaps stronger than in the first case. So yeah, yeah, I'd say that's
So, what do you, if you could remember those conversations with them, what do you believe led them to gradually give you an opportunity to speak and pitch again? Especially given the fact that the premise upon which you're building it is something that they were sold not to be trusted.
yeah, yeah. I think initially you have to hear them out. You have to let them vent, right? Say, right, what went wrong last time? Tell me about it. And I think you just got to validate that. Say, you know what, that's fair enough. You did have a shit experience, but tell you what, I'm confident we can do better. As I say, it's about building that trust, convincing them that you know what you're talking about, and you know the bar's been set pretty low before, so it's not going to be hard to raise the bar. And that's literally what I said to one of them. I said, look, I'm confident. I could sell you this truck, and I could do a better job than that. I said, as a company, we are better than that. Those problems were with a different person. That person's
Mhm.
left the company now. Give us a go, and you'll be better looked after. And yeah,
Yeah,
I'd like to think we achieved
I
that.
think it's such a different way of looking at it, isn't it? Because a lot about a salesperson that I really appreciate is the fact that they never give up. Right? If it were me, if I coming out as a data consultant, someone saying we've bought this particular product, it's useless, I would probably mark them as not to be called because they've had a bad experience. But to look at it and say, actually, a bar has been set so low that all I really need to do is just beat that, expectation, and you're already above expectation in a relative sense, of course. So that's a fantastic way to look at it. Um, Now, I think you've had a really good career spanning across different businesses. What do you believe you look forward to doing? Because if you've been doing selling all the time, does it kind of get boring for you? How do you motivate yourself to move on?
It's just always having those goals, those KPIs that you got to make. You reach those, and you lift the bar a little bit higher and try again. And there's always, as I say, the Moby Dicks, the white whales, those companies that you've never been able to get on board. So
Mhm.
there's always some motivation to go out there and land those deals. Um, yeah, they're out there to be had. It's my belief that nothing is forever. That they might be using someone else currently, but that person may upset them next month, and they'll be looking for another supplier. So yeah, um, yeah, for me, it's just about looking forward to that next goal, reaching the next goal, landing that white whale.
Fantastic. Hey, thank you so much for your time and your perspective today. I
That's
hope
right.
to connect with you again. But if people were to reach out to you to hear more about your story or New Zealand trucking media in general, how to come up with sponsorships or advertisements there, where can they go looking for?
So I'm on LinkedIn, obviously, as you mentioned. Um, my name and numbers inside the front cover of the trucking magazine if you pick one of those up, or on the website. So yeah, feel free to reach out. We do a wide range. We're not just a magazine, as you say. We've got a lot of digital elements in our portfolio. And there's a lot of transport, a lot of companies that touch the transport industry. Also,
Mhm.
it's not just the truck sales; it's the tire companies, the fuel companies, the workwear companies. There's so many businesses that touch the transport industry. So hey, if there's anything we can do for any of them, give me a call.
So thank you so much for your work that you're putting in for New Zealand trucking media, and I wish you the best. Until next time, thank you and have a great day.
Thanks for having me, Sid. Appreciate it.